are you doing?
Happy Sunday.
Yes, happy Sunday to you. And we're glad that you're tuning in. I'm glad the sun has come out a little bit. I didn't realize it rained last night. And our goal today is to help us deal with where we are as a people, as a group of people. I have had to make major decisions to deal with, and I forgot, what was the message called? What did I name it?
I'm not sure.
All right. If you can text me, guys, what I named this, that would be great. My goal today is once again to bring to the material world the spiritual or the invisible, so that you can see. And I started off the last one by saying my goal is to get you to pay attention to what you haven't been paying attention to. And I'll give you the original, where that statement comes from. I remember I went to Miami one time. We went to Miami for some reason, and we were also having some very spiritual, intellectual conversations in the car. And I said, Jill, I've got to pay attention to what I'm not paying attention to. There were things that were happening that I just didn't pay attention. But just because I didn't pay attention didn't mean that it wasn't in my space or on my page. And I realized things don't change if you don't pay attention to what needs to be paid attention to. And one of the things I had to make a decision in the last 4 months or so, or it's longer than that, but no, in the last 4 or 5 months, 4 months, because you think that once I make it through something, that I'm done with it. No, it can become cyclical. You can go through it, and I've learned, Jill, that you can go through it, but if you don't make a decision to confront your emotions and confront where you are, then you're going to be in a constant state of chaos, pain, and rain.
You know, when I began to recognize that my emotions are part of my inner voice, so I have to pay attention to them.
Mm-hmm.
My feelings, let me not call them, because my emotions is what you see. And we know that some of us, we are very skilled at not showing our emotions, but that doesn't mean you don't feel anything. You're just skilled at not being expressive and having that expression. And I wrote here before we started, finding my voice is not without expression. I have to express things. And so I saw this article, and the things that the article shared on was talking about expressing things and how if things are unresolved, they linger in the background,
right,
in the background of a person's heart. And it put things like sadness, words like sadness, grief, fear, anger, anxiety, mistrust, or suspicion, terror. And I thought about that, and I said, Jill, you know, I remember when I couldn't express sadness. Because there are people who don't like your sadness. Your sadness makes them anxious.
Yeah.
Your sadness makes them want you to not be sad. And this is how some of us got here. I think Will said definitely what you have to do to get past this in terms of how you got here and where you want to go. And even Jesus said, I know where I came from and I know where I'm going. You don't know that. Right. And when he was talking to a crowd of people. And you do want to have an idea of how you got here in terms of these emotions. And that, you know, trying to find your voice is not without being able to express these things. We don't mind expressing gratitude, mostly, the things that are in a good space, but that other stuff, and you know, I'm not exempt from someone who did not know how to allow someone to express a certain thing. Because again, a lot of us came up and we were taught to avoid.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be angry. We talked about that earlier. Mm-hmm. Don't be angry. Meaning, as kids, you need to pull that in. You're throwing a tantrum. You that's too much, you know, and not really realizing that those things are opportunities for them to master something, for them to master whatever is the age appropriate lesson to be learned at that particular stage of life, so that they can now take that mastery into another space. And this is why when sometimes you meet these very grown people who are still emotionally immature, very emotionally immature.
Right. And I told you this morning, I didn't have a child from birth to like I'm experiencing with my granddaughters. Mm-hmm. And I watched you, and you told me this is 15 years before she's here. You said, my grandchild, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be this type of grandmother. You told me it's 20 years ago, and you said what your goal was going to be. Mm-hmm. And then when I watched my granddaughter, who's 6, come to in our space, I watch you help her. And I'm amazed by the conversations you all have, because I'm just realizing this is probably the same spirit that was playing cards with the grown-ups in Southeast DC on summer nights. And I watch you asking her a question. Well, how did you get there? Or Zuri, and you pointed some things out, but you're helping her. And so what I've learned is I've watched her facial and physical reactions to the conversations that you all have had. Absolutely. And she's learning to manage her emotions.
There's a child left to himself disgraces their mother.
Right.
And their grandmother.
Said the grandmother.
You know, I grew up having to figure things out. I know it's a very scary place, and you share my type of upbringing. It's a very scary place to be grown and be unprepared. Mm-hmm. So I could say I came into adulthood scared and unprepared. And I think unprepared is scared, you know, in terms of what comes first. And I know the tragedy. The inner, the anxiety, the trauma that comes from constantly living by trial and error. Mm-hmm. You know, it is hard on this thing. You know, it is hard. And so to have been fortunate enough, myself, how I feel, fortunate enough for wisdom to find its way into my space. And through the word of God, through that particular, what should I say, the mind of God, not the full mind, but enough of it to now allow me to recognize the spirit of truth and follow it. I knew it's not a good place to be, to have to figure these things out. And I hope you all are hearing me, in the midst of people that they don't know. Right. See, the mastery starts at home. In order for mastery to take place at home, the sadness, the disappointment, the mistrust, those things have to be expressed so that you can be the teacher. What is discipline but discipling? See, discipline is about instruction. It's not punishment. It's teaching. It's discipling. And I decided I know what it's like to have to get a lot by observation. And it works, but I tell you, it takes a toll on it.
They take a toll on
it'll take a toll on. This is why you give parents and guardians, and someone is going, and you're told to train up a child in the way that that child should go. And so even as you go and to do those kind of things, you have to give them an opportunity. And I'm not talking about dominating their thinking. That's not what I do with her. I don't dominate her thinking by coming in and making the atmosphere what I want. I have to trust the spirit of truth, even at an age appropriate level for a 6-year-old.
Mm-hmm. And I find myself saying, all right, you really have to be involved.
Yes.
You're going to have to be involved when. That's why I found myself when you all were outside. I sat out on the porch watching you all in the tent, but she needed to see me being involved, and it wasn't just she wanted to sleep outside.
We put a pop-up tent in the front yard for
Right.
her because she wanted to go camping. This is the best we can get.
Right. And so, but I got to sit, I had to choose to sit outside. And I didn't want to go into that tent at that time because I didn't feel like crawling on the ground. It's an adventure. But I knew she has to see her father, a man in her life, who is able to be present in her moments. Go ahead. Okay. And so one of the things I told you, I said, I see is that I now see how Talita became where she is. Talita became where she is in terms of growing up, because you had to take a vested interest in her maturity level. And I'm watching this process. What I have my foot on is the stool she stood on in the kitchen when she was 3. Missouri, right? 3 and 4, 3 and whatever.
Helping me cook and make cupcakes.
Right. And so, that has been a blessing too. That when she came into our life, there are snacks that I got to eat.
I won't make no cupcakes before she got here.
There wasn't nothing happening, but it is. Mm-hmm. And so when I say she's managing this, she's learning from us that you can have an emotion, but you're going to have to learn how to process.
Right. Absolutely. Talita and I were talking. My daughter's Talita and I were talking because we talked about the family meetings that we had, and she, so now that she's a mom, she repeats back to me because of the things that she's doing, that she learned from. So I get to know. What am I saying? I get to know with the seed that intent that I sowed. I get to see what the fruit looks like because it happened. Yeah. And so she's talked about how the expression that she gives, because when we would have family meetings, I would tell her voice could change. Mm-hmm. Our voice changed. My voice changed when I'm feeling something. My voice changes. Sometimes it's gurgly, because you feel like you're about to be tearful. Sometimes it's stern, it's direct. Sometimes, it all depends on what's going on. And I just remember we were all learning at that time on how to parent this new way. And we were bringing in some old ways of parenting. And I remember on this particular occasion, you shared with her that she was raising her voice. And I said, but she's upset.
Okay, exactly.
She's upset, and so I don't have an expectation for her to sound, when she's upset, to sound like she's not upset, because we don't do that.
You said to me, Deron, she gets to experience her emotions, and basically, when we started the family meetings, that had to be a safe space. for her to be able to share how she felt, how you felt, how I felt, and I not go into some control or some dominating position.
You're going to parent the way you were parented. Right. You know, you come in and this is what happened, and so this is how we learn. But this is how some people were trapped, and this is how so many of us got stuck in not being able to grieve. Not being able to grieve and be present. See, this is we're not just talking to you about this over and over and over again. This is one of the pieces in our community, in our culture, that was really missed. I mean, we brag about the slave woman who, right after she had a baby, she went back out. Well, somebody didn't get to grieve. Someone didn't get to do what a mom would want to do. And even though they didn't have permission to frown, didn't mean the feelings weren't there. So what's my point? There's a history of expression being taken away that goes as far back as slavery.
And I have I've gone back and, looked at some pictures that I had of my grandparents and when I was that age. And I've had to see myself as an adult now and say, Deron, this is precious cargo. And you got to work on your disposition, your tones, everything that's happening, because I'm just saying it for the first, you're going to be one of the only men she gets to experience life around. And I had the same mindset with Talita, not that I was the only one, but I still understood she's going to have to see this is where we are as a family.
Listen, there's enough people out there that's willing to teach, was willing to show us what not to do. Someone has got to be intentional in the lives of each other, in the lives of this community, in order for us to break a spell, move away from the limited beliefs that were in the community to some new beliefs, new emotional beliefs. You know what an emotional belief is? I can't show that I'm disappointed. Why not? Why not? Now, I'm saying why not, like I've always mastered this. I didn't. I'm going to say it this way. It is hard to show someone else that you're disappointed in about a situation without somebody taking it personally. Whoever is the speaker or the one who feels a certain way. That's not so easy. And so I learned a long time ago, and this is what we talked about earlier on, that if you don't go forward, you won't know the benefit. Be empowered to be able to go through it the next time. Because it is a way to empower yourself. When I learned that self-esteem had to be earned, no one could give it to you.
The name of this is, what do you believe and are you going for?
Okay. What do you believe and are you going for?
Right. And so many of us say we believe, but are we going for what we say we believe in? Are you? And I just want to make that connection because we're going to bring up the Kubler-Ross grief cycle and show that I had to make a decision that I was going to have to be vulnerable and share with those that I had taught over the years and taught that I too am experiencing feeling weak. And when I say I'm experiencing feeling weak, I too I had to make a decision. I can't be the first among equals all the time. I have to be able to have my space of grieving and experiencing loss or whatever it is so that I can have harmony, inward harmony.
Right. No one, again, it is just what we need to do to navigate through this world and the expectations of folks who I say whose parents were hidden and missing, and then when they meet some other authority figure that they are willing to trust and they open their hearts to, they begin to expect you. This is why unfinished business and why we need to go through all this, because then someone is expecting you to be to them what their parents wasn't to them.
Yeah.
But no one tells you that they're trying to put somebody else's shoes on your feet and get you to walk it. They just kind of put all that stuff together, and before you know it, you do have an expectation that requires you to be beyond human, beyond what humans. After you believe in Jesus, had his disciples say, "Y'all pray for me. I'm feeling overwhelmed."
And I don't think I know that part of my recovery and my grieving process is I try to be people's father figure. I try to be their parental figure in terms of helping them. And what I didn't know is that you're going to get what they didn't give to their parents as well.
You know, one of the things that one of the questions of the topics I bring up when I'm dealing with some two couples, and that is this: if you want to know the place to show up and to focus on, and to get the biggest bang for your buck, is to ask yourself, who am I going to be when he can't be there for me? When both of us have something important. See, because I don't believe that I surrender my will and purpose for his. I don't believe that we can't find a way for it all to work. I don't believe that.
Right.
I don't believe I have to be on your team because I'm your wife.
Right.
Clearly, I do this because this is what I love to do. This is no business deal. This isn't let's sit together. Deron and Jill sit together and teach together. I was already doing Bible study on my job.
Mm-hmm.
I already had people living in my house with me, single mothers, before there was a soldiers or soul factory. This I am not hiring. The good shepherd. How do you know? How can you identify the shepherd? The real the shepherd, not the friendly parent shepherd that people want. You know, everybody wants their parents to be their friends, and now you want the shepherd to be your friends. No. Shepherds were warriors. They weren't agreeing with you. Not if agreeing with you meant that they had to put you out there so the sheep could tear you up. No, David said, I fought the lion in the bear, the mountain lion in the bear, to make sure to keep these animals from ravaging the sheep. That's a shepherd. And these are the particular things that again, you know, we get away from. But what did I want to say to you? Definitely, I don't believe that I got to get swallowed up in someone else's life. It doesn't have to happen. It happens that way because of the culture.
You were writing when you worked at the law firm, and someplace you were writing Bible studies,
mm-hmm.
and yeah, you were written several Bible studies, and I think you were teaching a Bible study.
I will. They let me do it on my lunch break. Mm-hmm.
That you do on your lunch break, and I remember watching. You don't have to share everyone's name, but I remember there was a couple of women that you were helping during that season.
Well, the one I remember her was Cecilia.
Right.
And it's so funny. The reason why Cecilia and how we met is that when I worked in the law firm, when I went on vacation, I don't know if I was sick or went on vacation, one or the other, but I was gone for a week, and she was a floater. And a floater is someone who doesn't work for a particular attorney. They work for the law firm, but they're a step above a temp. They work for the law firm, but they fill in the empty spaces when certain people are out. And so I left some leather gloves in my drawer while I was gone. When I came back, you know, I couldn't find my gloves, and I probably was talking about, I had gloves, I don't know what I just bought another pair and said that, and then we began to talk. And then one day she came to me, she just gave me my gloves. She said, I took your gloves. She said, I'm so sorry to the gloves. I said, you can keep mine, going up there, but I appreciate it.
Right.
And that's how we connected. That's how trust, I think, was formed, because at that moment, you know, I didn't go into the, you should be stealing out somebody's desk. I had another pair of gloves. I was like, okay, well, listen, I'm glad you said you keep your gloves. And we formed a friendship. And from that point on, this particular person didn't live with me, but I did buy groceries. I did go, so I did do those kind of things. And, but again, I think we were just talking about what made us say it. You said something.
I'm talking about, I think I told you had made a decision that you were going to help people at the job when you was teaching the Bible study.
Yes. But so let me bring this up because I want to hear what the chart was up and they took it down. I want to hear. So I want you to understand all of what we're saying right now is not random, right? It is. This is life. This is intent. This is sowing a seed. This is sowing a seed. Acting. This is not talking about the seed. This is not telling everybody what a seed can do. This is putting the seed in the ground, acting so that you can get to the fruit. All of these things we talked about, whether, as I said, I'm not here because I followed Deron into a space. That's not what this is, not for me. And so each and every one of us, we have something, a task. We have a task. We have that thing that is calling our names, calling out to us. And grief or unresolved conflict, that's what you can really call grief, unresolved situations, they take up our good space. It interferes with that voice of informed decision making. It interferes with our harmony. And anytime you're out of harmony, whether it is physical or not, it's dis-ease. Disease in the physical, but in the spiritual and emotional, it's dis-ease. And then that anxiety and all those things keep us aiming, shooting, but constantly missing the mark.
What I'd like to do is now go over the grief cycle, because many of us are not paying attention to what we're not paying attention to.
Right.
And once I learned that I needed to pay attention to what I wasn't paying attention to, I said, I'm feeling, because of the diagnosis and all the different things that was happening, my life is all over the place. What's happening with me? And because I learned to do this, my goal is to make the invisible tangible so that you can understand it. And Kubler-Ross grief cycle, it's a woman who interviewed people who were dealing with terminal illnesses. And she did many interviews with these people. And she found that there were patterns in all their lives, and they all ventured through these 5 stages in one way or another. And she said, she's the one who said there are 5 stages to this. And she pointed it out and wrote a couple of books about it. And I went back and read some interviews and some things that she did. And grief cycle, if you look at it, and it took me a while to get it, but I didn't understand it until I really studied it. She has this, there's a purpose for that wavy blue line that's starting at one point, and it's going up, and then it's going down, and it's going back up. And so what I like to do is I like to read the things that and at first I'll just read each one. She says you go through denial, you go through anger, then it's through depression, bargaining, and acceptance. And then she had, and if we can, I'd like to go to my slide for denial. And I want you to see that, thank you, that denial, when you see denial, what she did was she found out that the people who were in denial were avoiding things. People who were not facing truths. And that here they were with a terminal illness or with loss in their life, but they were not speaking truth to it. Denial was about confusion. Denial is, I don't understand what's going on. There are some of us right now, we have, including me at times, I don't understand what's going on with the world. But I cannot be in denial that this is affecting me. I kept saying, why am I depressed? Because I've been an activist. I've been somebody who's been on the front line that believes in the cause. And I realized that I was in shock. I skipped the confusion part, the elation part, because I was in shock. I couldn't believe this is happening in the United States. This is happening right now. And I wanted something to believe in, but I said, no, I am bothered by what's happening because I was taught to believe in the American dream or to believe in freedom. And I didn't think that I would see, although I prepared, I didn't think that I would feel in this lifetime this type of space. And so denial was about shock. It's about fear. It's about elation. Denial is about, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and get something to eat and make me feel good. I'm going to get something, you can bring it back here. I'm going to get some food. I'm going to go get me a pizza or something. I'm not getting on you. I'm telling you what the choices I've had to make in my life. And I said, I'm not going to take myself to a space of elation. I am not going to mask what I'm experiencing. And so denial, shock, meaning you're shocked by loss. You're shocked by, there are people right now, they are shocked that I was able to pay my rent. I've worked a job all my life, and I was able to pay my rent and do certain things. But now I'm having to make choices on what I'm going to do. And then there's fear. Denial is about I'm afraid. And many of us, we don't pay attention to what it means to be afraid. I encourage you, look up Bruce Springsteen's Rolling Stone interview article. And he helped me. He said, when I got into the car, Bruce Springsteen wrote Born to Run and Born in the USA. And he made a statement to say, when I get into the car, there's 3-4 other people that get into the car with me. And he says, I just have to make sure that I am the one that's driving. In other words, I let fear, depression, anger, whatever it is, they're all here. And he says, they're not going anywhere, they're voices. And he says, but because of the way I grew up with a hard apple father and a father who was a little very stern in some areas, he had some trauma in his life. And what you said earlier, Jill, is this is going on in our community, but we've been taught, don't focus on that. Don't deal with that. And so when you go through fear and those things, what we don't understand is these things that we are talking about, that I'm talking about, it's important to remember that they're tools. When you see these different things in the grief cycle, they're regular, natural emotions. And if we're not trained how to manage our emotions, we don't understand. When I lost my dog, my dog died, and I found out when I was in my early 20s or something, I went into a level of shock because I was told, get past it, get on over it. What I needed to be able to believe. And I had to pay attention to what I wasn't paying attention to. And I said, I must pay attention to these emotions. And so when I started finding out that, and I'll just say it right here, I got into a season where I couldn't sleep. And I realized, I said, what's going on? And if you go to depression, if we go to the one that talks about depression, where is it at? They're pulling it up, great. If you go to the one that talks about depression, you find out that depression, when you said, Jill, I'm overwhelmed, I feel helpless, I feel hostility, I feel flight, I'm ready to run away, I'm ready to do something. Well, depression is something that I've had to learn that's going to be a part of this life. And when you are in depression, you do feel overwhelmed. And by the time if you look at this chart, by the time she got to bargaining, she was struggling to find meaning. Do you have anything to say on that? I'm choking, I got it. And so you said, Deron, how does this look in your life? How does this benefit you? How is this working in your life? And I had to answer that last night as we talked about what we would do today. I had to answer that and say that, Jill, when I was in denial, it became a way to deal with my emotions. When I was in anger, I was angry and frustrated because I was no longer the person that I thought I was, and I was experiencing a loss of my reality, and I was not understanding that each one of these points. And so by the time she gets to bargaining and acceptance, bargaining is when you are struggling to find meaning and reaching out to others, telling one story. Bargaining is when you're saying, what if I should have, or God, please, if you do this, I will do this. If you do this, I will see that I'm not doing this. Well, what I had to understand is that all of this goes to acceptance, because right after bargaining was acceptance. And acceptance, exploring options. Acceptance, and I'll just say this now, it's in my notes on my thing. Acceptance is about exploring options, looking at, I'm doing something new. Bring it back to me. He said, behold, I'm doing a new thing. We have to, acceptance is when you accept what's in front of you. You accept the picture you accept what's in front of you, and you accept the reality that's in front of you, and you say, now give me a way to deal with this. And acceptance is love. Because acceptance is when you take yourself to a higher consciousness. And I had to make a decision, Deron, you got to accept this health reality. You've got to accept this economic reality. You've got to accept this social distance reality. You have to accept that you've got to make decisions that you didn't want to make right now. But you have to accept that God is here, he's with you, and he will take you to where you need to be.
Listen, this got thought about what does acceptance do? When you say acceptance, when I'm not in acceptance, I'm using my energy a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not accepting something, then I'm using my energy to block it. Mm-hmm. Versus, remember, whatever the life you want, don't hear this like religious folks say, without so $10,000 so you can get $100,000. No. I'm not telling you whether that works or not. I'm telling you that's not where I'm coming from. I'm saying, but whatever life that you want. So if you want kindness, so kindness. Whatever you give into this universe is going to give it back to you. And so remember this. So why am I saying that to you? Because if you don't accept this and you're blocking something, then nothing gets into the dirt. No seed gets into the ground, into the surrendered part of your heart, so that you can have the life you want. Remember, we talked about the Gandhi chart. That is, it starts with belief and then it ends with a destiny. It starts with belief. What does that belief mean, you all? What does acceptance mean, you all? It means that you're going to accept, but that's not just cognitive. It doesn't mean that you are now thinking better about it. No, it means because nothing happens until you do it. Faith without works is dead. I don't care how intentional you feel and how pumped up and sold out for you are. I told you, Ron, it was the 2017 fast. I used to, in the area of my house, I had all the space I used for spring cleaning. And next thing you know, I didn't get to it and a month went by. And then this month went by. And one day I sat there and I said, Jill, that stuff, it's not going to move itself.
Right.
I wanted it gone, though.
Right.
And every time I saw it, you know, I got to do. So I was upset. And that thing just kept rocking my day or turning my beautiful time into small bits of irritation until I actually went and did it. So what is acceptance going to allow you to do? Act.
Right.
What is acting going to allow you to do? Plant. So what is soul going to allow you to do? Reap. What is reaping going to allow you to do? Live the life that you want. Live the life that you want. And you get your soul, you get to decide that rather than having people decide what your life will look like for you.
What I learned is that you can use force or you can use love. But when you get into your emotions and you don't know how to express your anger or deal with your anger, I've had to challenge people to say, my friend, you're projecting your anger on your loved one. You're bringing this anger into the conversation. You brought this anger into the house. You brought this frustration and this irritation, and you are trying to cover it with your generosity. You are trying to cover it with what you do in terms of how you have helped people or what you have done. But in this, what you're doing is you're also not dealing with reality as it is. And I'm glad they came to an understanding, because the statement was, if you know me, you know that I give. And I said, but you can't expect people to just accept you based on your own description of yourself. You've got to understand that you cannot put on loved ones, your expectations, because that means that you don't understand that each one of these things that's part of grieving, if you haven't done it, if you haven't grieved certain things, you take it out on people that are in your life. And they had to come to a conclusion. I never grieved what I experienced growing up. I never grieved what happened with my parents. And because of that, I have been on the perspective of people pleasing than the perspective of spirit pleasing.
You know, I have a friend, and she did something I thought was huge. Something was huge when it comes to grieving and processing your emotions in real time and going on. Being very, very honest with you. And this person was going out with a guy, and they had been going out for some time. And clearly the relationship had gone to a different level where it looked like it may turn into something futuristic. And this person decided that during that time, he didn't want to get married. He didn't want to be married. He didn't believe in marriage or whatever. Mm-hmm. However he said it. So this person knew that wasn't going to work for her. And but she still hung in there. And then, one day he got married to somebody. Hmm. And he chose to, he decided he was going to get married. He was going to call her and tell her that he had gotten married. Mm-hmm. And I think by this time they had broken up, but not so far away from the time where you would think that he would go from not wanting to be married to being married. But the brave thing that she did to me was that when he did call her and tell her, she didn't pretend, she didn't beg him to come back, but she didn't pretend that this was a bit devastating. And devastating didn't mean emotions that were used to control somebody and make them feel guilty. Wasn't that? She simply said this, and I thought it was just so brave, so big of her to say to him, I wanted that to be you. And so when he's calling out, somebody else, some of us would be, good for you. When y'all decide to get married, good for you. Not feeling that way one bit. Not feeling that way one bit. But you know how it goes. We ain't going to give you the satisfaction, right? But I thought it was so brave of her to put that truth in the space, because it made her look, it didn't make her look, I use the word brave, but that's hard to do. But this is handling your emotion in real time, being true. And it says, I think John 4 something said, what is the kind of worshipers that God sees, that the Father sees? One that will worship Him in spirit and in truth. That means in reality was absolutely this. Just because you're calling me and telling me that this is what you're doing, and you're feeling like this is your respect for me. Oh, well, let me be a part of this conversation too. And I don't know what to say about that, because that's what I wanted. She didn't say I want to be her, but that's what I wanted. And you're telling that to a person who claimed while he was taking up all of your precious, beautiful time. That's not what he wanted. That is hard to be that honest, but when you can be that honest, you open your heart up for future sowings and future plantings and future fruit, healthy fruit.
Greatness is the courage to overcome obstacles. And this, I'll say here, this whole grief cycle, this whole grief thing that we are all experiencing, in terms of some of us, in terms of loss or things changing, this whole season is a season where we are being asked to face something that we didn't expect to face. And some of us have children, and we've had to homeschool. We've had to do all kinds of things. And you've got to be able to go through these emotions. And I'm so glad, Jill, when you wrote the grief and you asked, what do you think do you think I should do that one? I said, no, I think you should do it. Not knowing that we were going to end up in this kind of season. And what blessed me was that I'm on social media, or I was on and I was talking to people, and I had to confess, hey, listen, you don't see me call you like that, or you don't see me dial your numbers like that, because I'm dealing with my own grief. I'm dealing with my own loss and the things I'm going through. And I need you I said, I'm hoping that I said, I felt weak in the sense I didn't want to share this, but sometimes you can't be the person to the people that you thought you could be. And I had to say, I'm fighting depression because my life was stopped too, all of a sudden. And I put a lot of thought and planning into the future, only to look up and realize it had to stop on a dime. And so what do I do with all this creativity and all these things that I thought God wanted me to do, but now everything has changed again? I had to accept that I'm going to have compassion for myself, compassion for others, and have love for myself while we're in this place.
Right. And see, the whole point is sometimes when we think about grief, we think about very old memories that went unresolved. But like you just said about yourself, and like I said about this friend of mine, to just come right out in real time and say, that's what I wanted. And because she said and told me the story, which is another great thing, she could have kept it to herself, told me the story, didn't even try to impress me with some level of strength in terms of the way the world measures strength. But what did she do? She stopped the bleeding. She stopped the drain. See, what's the truth? If we got a whole bunch of old stuff, and grief is a cycle. Cycle means it's not going to come back around. There's going to be another disappointment. There's going to be some other some things that you have to deal with emotionally. And this frees her up to make new moments, new decisions, to get new information. Why is that? Because her energies are not being drained by that old thing knocking on the door. Because as I said, you all in the 8 o'clock service, the brain's job is to bring about, to organize, to support you in survival, to make sure you survive. That's the brain's job. And so you unless you just get drugged out or get into a habit that just constantly overrides your true voice, you're going to hear it. Why do some of the people who are addicts tell you that they keep doing it? Because when they get sober, they got to face that life that they were trying not to face. So now the addiction is a cycle, but even so now you're at a place where you're not getting that, nothing is getting done, and you're that hamster, and you're moving but going nowhere. And when you're moving, let's say this: when we're going nowhere, we're actually left behind. Why is that? Because the world kept moving. Everything keeps moving forward. How do I know? Because today is what, August 23rd to 24th. Other day was the 20th, 24th. So we know the numbers keep going on and we get left behind. But why am I saying this? Because it's a drain. It's a drain to have unresolved and unfinished business. Trying to get you in your brain saying, listen, we're not in sync. We're not in sync. And like a good shepherd, the mind is not going to turn you over to the wolf unless you trick your brain by addiction and some other kind of dependence. But unless you do that, your brain is going to keep trying to get you to get that thing out of the way. Why? So that you can finish what you were sitting here to do.
When you decide, when I make a decision, I'm not going to be dominated by the bear. And I call it the bully bear. I'm not going to be dominated by fear. The bear. I'm not going to be dominated by woulda, shoulda, coulda thoughts. I'm not going to be dominated by fear of losing my life. I'm not going to be dominated by the fear of going to the doctor or going to get the scan or the test or whatever it is, the things that were happening. I had to realize this ain't going nowhere. And I'm going to have to either master this, but I said, I'm 52 years old. I'm 52. And I said, I don't want to live my life in fear.
You mean now? You 54.
I'm talking about when I made the
Okay.
decision. I knew you was going to say I should have hit the big on Bible thing over there. So anyway, get back to your thought. What was I saying? I said what?
I'm sorry. You were just saying.
Yes, I'm not going to be dominated by fear, because I realized that I had already talked to a couple of people who did not go to the doctor when they needed to, and they were people that were people of faith.
Mm-hmm.
What I realized, wait a minute, they're being bullied by fear too. And I said, I refuse to allow the cloud, the dark cloud, to punish me or bully me into certain positions. I am going to love myself and show love. And I overcame it. And it still comes back. But I'm able to say, no, I can take captive these thoughts and make them obedient to my Creator, and therefore rise above this moment. And so last night I slept good. I still fight some insomnia things, but I'm sleeping much better because I'm no longer allowing myself to worry about what I can't change.
Do you know who you be if you really realize that you had the power to heal yourself? You know how many of us need people's opinion because we don't think we have the power to heal ourselves. You know how many of us focus on being regulated and moved and built up by what's on the outside of us because we have yet to accept it, to accept.
Right.
And to deal with the limited beliefs that tells us otherwise.
Right.
That you have the power to heal yourself. But part of that power to heal yourself means that you have to grieve. I want you to hear grieving and mourning as you getting in sync with your emotions, with your real feelings and how you really feel without having to clean it up and absolutely without judging. Do you know what kind of contributor, what kind of contributions you would make to this world if you didn't have to check out and go try to get somebody else to heal you? In this area, you have the power to heal ourselves. And when we do that, do you realize how strong our community will be if we all brought our true selves to the table? If Deron, if I can treat you and you can treat me, and we treat each other based on the truth of what we know. There was plenty of times in my life that I didn't get what I sowed, I didn't reap, because the truth is I didn't bring my real self to the table. I came to the table. I was satisfied that people thought something, but I didn't bring my true self to the table. So that means that when I was going through, when I was sad, no one even knew how to approach me or to help me when I was sad. Because I would not allow, I was in avoidance thinking, avoidance talking, just in avoidance and not doing it. And so again, when we're talking to you about grief, and Rod is talking about all of these things, all of these small pieces, what are they connected to? Having a plan for your life. Having a plan for your life, knowing that you deserve something.
Right.
That you deserve to feel better too.
Right. I'm going to say, I started doing meditation. When you see this screensaver behind me, I learned, I said, Ron, you're going to have to pray your way out of this. Meaning you're going to have to meditate. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to still yourself. Mm-hmm. And so there are some TV shows that have come out that a lot of men have looked at, and I told myself, I'm not looking at it. I'm going to stay on God's page because I know they need to make money and do certain things, and I'm saying I'm staying on God's page. I'm staying on Deron's page. I'm staying on my creator's page, because I know that they've got to get this advertising money and do all these different things, and I'm not going to participate in organizations per se that are not doing the best for people. And I made a decision that I'm going to be real to myself.
Listen, you know how many times about being real to yourself, and this is what we said earlier, and I hope you all get this, that being real to yourself means that you have to allow yourself to be angry. That is being real to yourself. You have to allow yourself to feel sadness and disappointment, and deal with the fact that you are disappointed. Even if you tell yourself at the end of your thought process, you know what? I don't have a right to have this level of expectation that I have with this person. It has turned into some level of codependency. And now I'm not happy if they're not happy. You know, but what's the bottom line? The Bible tells you, be angry and sin not. Be angry, but sin not. And so I couldn't live that out, because I had so many what they call it, distorted thinking patterns, for sure. But just the whole culture. But if I'm going to be real, if you're going to be real with yourself, being real with yourself isn't just being real in all the areas that is acceptable to society. It is being real, and even in the being still. Why am I still doing meditation? Why? So that I can feel my real feeling. It's the noise. I have to turn the volume down. Right. And so being still, it allows me to actually be present with myself. Listen, I said this, I meant to say this earlier today. Listen, if you are hearing this and you have a conversation, a question that you want to have, that you have something, because you're ready, you're right at the precipice, you're ready. Email me at jill@befree365.com and tell me, give me a question. Because when I go into the next phase after grief, and you look on my website, Be365, you'll see that after grief, I don't remember what I called it, but it does say learning to love and laugh again, or learning to love and live again. And I can talk about it all day long, but some of you right now, you're being triggered. You're being triggered, and you want to go through the door. Email me at jill@befree365 and say, listen, this is what I want to know. This is what I would like to know. And why is that? Because I think there's a step, and I would hate to see this particular seed get snatched away from someone, because this is a lot of we've explained exposure and triggers out there. So I just want to throw that in there.
When you began to talk about limiting beliefs, I did not see anger. I did not see denial. I did not see avoidance. I did not see limiting beliefs and being overwhelmed. And that I realized you have to go from limiting beliefs to benefiting beliefs.
Mm-hmm. That's a good way.
You have to go from limiting beliefs to benefiting beliefs. Mm-hmm. I had to realize depression doesn't work for me. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked for me. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to do the work of depression and worry. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to do fear. Doesn't work for me. It does in the sense of letting me know what to do. But I'm going to have to make my choice to overcome these things that I'm experiencing. And I found out, Jill, vulnerability is strength. Vulnerability and being able to confess and tell folks where you are, because I didn't want anybody, I don't even have the thought anymore when I'm talking about what I went through, what I experienced, I would have this rejection thing in the back of my mind, like, people gonna think I'm weak. They gonna think this, they gonna think that. And God said, Deron, you're gonna have to drop all that. You have to leave all of that alone. You've got to be who you are.
I mean, since everybody falls short, fall in and fall short, you know, I just say, listen, I'm sorry, but we all standing at the cross.
Right.
We all stand at the cross at some point in some season in our life. What needing help? Sometimes more help than others. We're all at that place where we have to deny ourselves and we have to do those particular things. Deron, when you talked about depression and you said depression, it doesn't work for you.
Right.
Will said something at the end of last service, and he talked about all these different things being a muscle. And
he said faith is a muscle.
He said faith is a muscle. So he talked about all those good things being a muscle. So now I'm gonna say what he said, but I'm gonna take it to the other side with depression and anxiety, all those things. If you feed it, you strengthen it. How does empowerment happen? Every time you rehearse it, this is why people tell you do affirmations and rehearse but you know, saying affirmations but not planting the seed and putting it in the ground don't get you any fruit. I'm telling you this right now. Okay.
Right.
It gets you something, but it's very temporary. But because of the way the brain works, right. Because you tell the brain, this is what's important. This is what I want you to strengthen. This is what I want you to hold on to. So the same way Will could say faith and he named a bunch of virtues, so to speak, and he called them muscles. Well, guess what? I just want you to know that's why you had to say depression doesn't work for me anymore. What you're saying is I'm taking the power away from it. Well, you know why you can take the power away from me? Because you're the same one that empowered. You are the same one that's empowering these low moves because you keep choosing to sow low move seeds. When you got to, again, you have the power to heal yourself. Right. Especially in these areas. You gave the power, take the power back. And that sounds real simple. It is. It's simply explained, but the work of putting the flesh in that kind of light after mastering avoidance, mastering denial, mastering bargaining, that's where the rub is. It is, okay, am I going to change my confession? And then when I change my confession, I have to change what I'm going to profess and confess. And now all of that has set me in a space where my heart is saying, ready and open for surrender. Now I've got to renew my mind and be transformed because I got to do something different. Belief is an action word. It is not a word about how you think. It is if faith without works is dead. So belief and trust without actually sowing the seed and putting it in the ground is ineffective.
I had to say to myself, when you're triggering me, to remember that I said I've learned that whatever you're experiencing, if you immerse yourself in the wisdom of previous gurus, the wisdom of teachers, the wisdom of people who have experienced what you're experiencing, and you immerse yourself, meaning I said, I'm going to have to get through this season of uncertainty. Well, then I'm going to have to know what uncertainty is. I'm going to have to know what the unknown is. And I'm going to have to become associated with uncertainty. I'm going to have to write the definition down of uncertainty. I'm going to have to look at the different examples of what it means to be in uncertainty. And I'm going to have to immerse myself, submerge myself in this topic. I had to say, with this depression that I was experiencing, because I was finding myself crying at 2:30 in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, and upset that I had to be on a supplement regimen and all these different things. And I said, Deron, you're going to have to make a decision when you said that, I'm doing my best not to cry, choke up. But when you said that you have to be able to recite these affirmations, it's not just affirmations of so I can have positive thinking. I had to say, Deron, I got a set of cards around here. I'm not going to get up and look for it now. But I had to accept, Deron, part of the grieving process is to accept that this is a part of life. It's a normal emotion. And it's an emotion, it's your emotion, it's you. Don't run from you. Stay on your page, meaning not don't become narcissistic and nihilistic, but make a decision that you are going to honor yourself. And that's when I realized once I started honoring myself, I went from being hopeless to having hope. And I had to say, Deron, you're not helpless. You got to get up.
Listen, you have the power to heal yourself. Affirmations do not change anything.
Right.
Or let me phrase it. It changes the atmosphere. Okay. It changes the atmosphere. But your change comes from because you have to believe what you say. Right. Not just say it. That's not a nursery rhyme. You have to believe what you say. But guess what? You have to believe that you matter. You have to take that old information. There's some new information you need to put in there. And that's why acceptance in the word of God, the wisdom in the word of God, not reading the stories and doing the religious stuff with it, but the wisdom. Why am I calling it wisdom? Because you could probably go to another religious guru and hear them say it their way. The same thing another way. Because at this point it's wisdom. And you get that wisdom. And you get the wisdom from God. And the wisdom of God said, listen, it starts right here. Right here. You first have to believe that God exists. Believe that what's real is really real. Get out of denial. You have to believe that this energy, this creator exists. And then you have to believe that this creator, this spirit of righteousness and truth, you have to believe that the creator diligently rewards you for your diligence. Once you believe that, because this is what you said, it's a benefit. Right. It's the benefit. You have to see the benefit. When motivation really come from? Incentives. Listen, the Bible is full of incentives. We like to call them promises and then snatch the promises and then try to live with them outside of covenant. Right. Well, those promises they're not yours outside of covenant. But God is bigger than this Bible. It's bigger than what is contained in that space. But the one thing that is true about the one true God is this. If you plant a good seed, okay, if you plant any kind of seed in good soil, it is going to bear fruit. If you place it in the sun and you get the proper amount of sunlight and nurturing, some of it's not even from your hand, it's going to bear fruit. So guess what? God, you tell me, and I can ask you for wisdom, and you want to give it to me, I can, if I just follow this out, if I face this truth, if I don't do avoidance, and I am diligent in this, faith starts right there, and you already written in there that I will give you whatever seed you sow. I'm not going to go in the ground and reverse your seed. So sow your seeds. Sow your good seeds. Sow your seeds of confrontation. Gail used this all the time. I talked to you all years ago. Confrontation is about clarity. Not about going at each other. So that when everybody else in your world thinking that they can't confront because it's aggression. No, I don't understand something. I want to understand and I'm doing it face to face. And that's all it is. And take the fangs out. It's about clarity. Why? It's about communication, and communication is about outcomes. And when you communicate well, you can plant the right seed so that you get the kind of food that you're looking for.
Because I communicated well with my father, my biological father, and I made a decision in 2018 or 19. No, it had to be 18 I made a decision that I'm going to his house and we're going to talk. I'm not calling him, but my life doesn't have to be empty in this space because I'm holding on to something. And I said, I've got to go to forgiveness. And it took a person to challenge me and ask me, Deron, how long are you going to go through this? How long are you going to tell this story? And because he knew it was Jay Cameron, he knew my language, I said, he pissed me off because I was like, no, man. And then I finally said, he's right. Let me tell you, I can see in my shirt, my wife bought this for me for Father's Day. And it says, today I read it, it says, Dad.
We have to look at it, y'all. It says, Dad of a doctor. Some people only dream of meeting their hero. I raised mine.
There you go. And there was a moment when I see the word dad, there was a moment where I had a boat and I got stuck out there on the water and I had to call him. And he came out to get me with his boat. And he helped me to fix it and go. And I felt so young as we were down in I forgot what you call the compartment, the engine compartment. And he was doing what needed to be done. And I said, man, this feels really good. Well, 4 weeks ago, or less than 4 weeks ago, I went to visit his boat. And it feels good to be able to call my dad and say, hey, Dad, how you doing? Or for him to call me. Because confrontation allowed me to go into forgiveness. And once I decided I'm letting whatever go, and he also said, I am responsible for some of these things that are in your life. I messed up. And I want you to know that. On that day I went to the house, I'm a different man. And I don't have unfinished business in the area of unforgiveness. I put everybody on the forgiveness chart and said, I don't need to afford, I can't afford this unforgiveness. And guess what it did? It brought me peace of mind. And I never thought I would see my father in his 70s be the man that he is now, because he had to make some changes in his life too as well. So there's a movie called The Straight Story. It's a true story. And we watched it last night. Thank you. We watched it last night. I wouldn't look at it because the first time I saw it, the only time I saw it, it changed my life forever. And I finally, as I was working on this, Jill, I said, Deron, you've got to go ahead and talk about forgiveness. And I just want you all to know that The Straight Story will change your life, because it is about what am I going to do as I've gotten older, and will I let this stuff go? And I let things go, and I'm challenging you to let these things go. And the reason, church, we're spending this time that we're spending it on, because there are a lot of people out there that are still out there partying or doing whatever they want to do. But I want you all to know, like the 5 wise versions and the 5 foolish versions, we got to get prepared. We have to get prepared with what's on its way. And we have yet to see what's going to happen with the children, our children, and all of this. And so God is saying, Deron, get your spirit and your mind in order, because this chaos is all around us and it's surrounding us. I'm turning over.
Hey, guess what, you all? Good talking to you. Hope you have a blessed Sunday, the rest of the week. I will see you with.
I think the most appropriate way to end the instruction that was just given to everybody in what was just said is I'm going to steal Deron's words and his saying that he has for himself, but that he did give to us as a congregation, and that I sent to him early this week. D-I-N.
Yeah.
We have to do it now. See, the Spirit of God is moving through the words that was just spoken to all of us. And right now we're in a place where we got to make some real life decisions. And we can't hesitate anymore. We have to make those decisions now. We have to do it now, because another moment is going to come, and the one we are in right now, the clarity of God's voice and through his Spirit in our space may not be as clear later on when you start doing something else. And so we got to stop in this moment and pay attention to what the Spirit of God is whispering to us as individuals. And when he speaks this time, he's already been speaking to you while you've been listening to the word of God this morning. He's already shown you several things that he's been telling you to deal with. And now I'm telling you, through the power of God, do it now. Do it now. Stop the hesitating, stop the procrastinating, stop the excuse making, and just do it now. Get it done. Be still. Do it now. Pray. Do it now. Let him off the hook. Forgive yourself. Do it now. Take the time. Read the book. Whatever it is the Spirit of God has been speaking to you, it's time to do it now. I'll say something like I said in the first service, but I'll say it this way, as Jill touched on it a little bit earlier. When you said it, Jill, it hit me a different way. It says, if I'm not strengthening the virtue that God wants me to strengthen in my life, if I'm not taking the energy and the effort and the time to strengthen the virtue in my life, I'm strengthening the stress in my life.
That's it.
Because if I don't put the effort into strengthening the virtue, the wonderful things that God wants me to hold on to, by ignoring that, I'm strengthening the stress in my life by embracing all the foolish stuff. And to make it even more plain, it's just like you either spend the time strengthening your muscles or you spend the time doing nothing, strengthening your fat. And when you strengthen fat, guess what? You become less of who you actually are. You don't feel the same energy you don't feel as good, as healthy as you should feel if you spent the time and energy and spiritual work in strengthening that spiritual muscle. And so I want to pray. I want us all to pray. And I want us to pray in the spirit of, hey, look, God is speaking. And I'm telling you right now, move by God's Spirit. Do it now. God is speaking to you. Do it now. You just may not get another opportunity. We don't know what your tomorrow or if your tomorrow comes. We got this moment right here, right now. Surrender. Do it now. Stop. Do it now. So Heavenly Father, it's in your name that we thank you so very much. I thank you for the word, God, that was just pouring forth from your servants. I pray extra blessing upon their hearts, minds, and bodies and spirits. And I pray right now, God, that all of us that need to surrender, first, God, I pray that you expose us to what needs to be surrendered. Make it so loud that it cannot be ignored in this moment, God, so that we will know exactly what we must deal with right now. God, I pray surrender right now and in this moment. I pray for healing right now, God. I pray that somebody under the sound of my voice will, from this moment on, take the time, God, to just be still and wait for how you will have them to go forward. God, I pray that we all get into the spirit of doing it now, living in a way that tomorrow is not promised, as your word says, but help us to take full advantage of the current moment in time that is before us right now, so that we don't miss another opportunity, God, so that we can alleviate the stress and turn up the volume on your holiness. Father God, let the stress form us and push us into the direction of you. And help us just to stop being foolish, God. God, I pray right now that somebody's going to take the time, God, and be deathly honest with themselves in the room with just you two. And just to be exactly who they are in this moment. Not who we want to be, but who we actually are. So that knowing that being that honest in your space, God, with you, just the two of us, then we'll be able to take steps to become who you want us to be. And I thank you that that prayer is going to be answered, that somebody's going to see you, God. I speak it in the name of Yeshua, also named Jesus the Christ. Father God, reveal to us, and we will do it now. Thank you for this opportunity. In your name we pray. Amen.